Hey guys, what's up? Unrested here. I answer all sorts of JFAQs, Japan's frequently asked questions. If you have questions about moving or living in Japan, leave it in the comments below. Maybe it'll be a future video. In this video today, we are taking a look at Megan and Ben, also known as at Hito the Hitobito. That's their tag for getting to their site ASAP on YouTube. And they have a bunch of shorts on here. They have a bunch of long videos too. Um, the long videos in general are okay. The shorts, I don't know if they're doing it for clickbait or because maybe they started making these when they didn't really know much about Japan, but some of them have a lot of misconceptions about Japan while living in Japan. Some I would say are just like straight out lies. I don't know why they've made them. For the most part, their long form videos are not like that, so I'm kind of confused why they have this misinformation riddled between their other videos. We're going to go over a couple of these today because they're kind of bothersome. Not trying to shoot down the video or give them any kind of problems. They've got 1.79 million subscribers. I will never even be seen after making this video because I am a nobody. But I just like to dispel some of these rumors about Japan. Let's go ahead and get me shrunk down here, pushed up into a corner, and get started on some of these sort of strange bits of advice as far as Japan. First of all, this one's kind of what I call a self-hating video.
Here's how I can tell you're an American tourist. The first thing I look for is if you're smiling and waving, or before I can even see you, I hear you. Can confirm after living abroad, we're pretty loud. And
For the most part, any Americans I've seen come to Japan are pretty respectful. Usually, if you can afford to come to Japan, you've had a little bit of manners learned over the years. Also, smiling and waving. Smiling and waving at who? I've never had a gaijin smile and wave at me that I didn't already know. I'm not sure who she's talking about, where she's seen this. Um, Strange.
apparently, Americans lean against things so much that the CIA had to teach their spies not to do that so they wouldn't get caught while toppling democracies. And I'm sorry, but if you're wearing short
Americans leaning against stuff. A bit strange because there's literally Japanese people who fall asleep in the subway. And when I mean fall asleep, I don't mean like they fall asleep on the train. We've seen that before. I mean literally like they're just, staying overnight in the middle of the subway while it's closed, waiting for it to start back up at 5 a.m. because maybe they had a pretty wild white night out. And they'll just like crouch into a corner and fall asleep in the subway. I mean, that's not different from leaning. You're actually going to sleep instead. Another very strange observation. Perhaps we do lean. I've seen every race in Japan lean. Very strange.
or carrying around a reusable water bottle, then it's on site. I don't make the rules.
Lots of Japanese people carry about them water bottles. They're pretty big about keeping their skin healthy. Like a lot of them, even men, have skincare routines, and it includes hydrating throughout the day.
You're an American. One advanced technique is if you maintain eye contact. Americans love prolonged eye contact. And
No, they don't. I actually have a problem with that. I'm not a big fan of keeping long-term eye contact. One thing I will say maybe is more American is if there's a lull in a conversation, like a long silence, we try to fill it, whereas the Japanese do not mind if there's a very long silence in between conversations. Like that's not considered awkward.
I really know you're an American if you make small talk with anyone that'll listen.
Okay, see, yeah, there we go.
Here's how I can tell you're
Okay, that's good enough. Thank you. Quitting the worst job. That's what we're talking about.
You can hire somebody to quit your job for you in Japan, and I did not understand why.
Yeah, apparently you can do this. Never seen it done. Never had a Japanese friend who did it. Never had a Gaijin friend do this. Never heard of this.
Until I quit my first job here. As soon as I turned in my resignation letter, it was like a criminal trial had started. My boss, my boss's boss, my boss's boss's boss, they sat down and grilled me. They
No, they didn't. That never happened.
for real wanted an apology with tears. It was
Where were you working? I mean, you should out this company if this is really true, because this is illegal. You can't do stuff like this in Japan.
not enough to tell them that I had gotten a better job, they wanted to know all the details. What my new job would be, how long I'd stay there, what my salary was gonna be. And I
Do you know what you say to that? Temeni kanke nai. None of your fucking business.
had heard of people here whose old job tried to sabotage their new job with this kind of information, so I was
You can get sued for doing that, so I'm not sure where would have done that, who would have done that, why they would have done that, or risked doing that.
stressed. And mind you, I come from a country where I had coworkers who wrote "I quit" on a napkin and were never seen again. So
Why did they even do that? I come from a country, the same one as you, America, where when people quit, they just stop showing up. What are you talking about? You can do the same thing in Japan. You can just stop showing up, and guess what? You're done. That's it. No one's going to try and hunt you down.
So yeah, this was quite the culture shock. After they finally accepted my reason for leaving, they still wanted an apology letter.
No, they didn't. Where is this? What are you talking about? I've never heard of a company ever doing this.
And for me to give a speech to the staff.
A speech to the staff? Get out of here. Come on. Okay. This is ludicrous. There's no such. I've never heard of anyone having to do this ever in Japan. List in the comments below. I know I have other viewers who live in Japan as well. Have you ever heard of anyone having to do this? Because to me, this is absolutely reeking of BS. Okay, another one we got here, and I'm starting to find this out as I go through the videos. She doesn't seem to know a lot about America either, even though she's from America. Here she talks about things in American schools compared to Japanese schools, which are completely wrong. She's definitely never worked as a teacher in America.
American school things that sent my Japanese students into a coma. My school lunches in Japan looked like this. Our school had their own nutritionist and used local ingredients. So when I showed them what my American
Schools don't have a local nutritionist. They have a set lunch that's guided by the ward office, the district, or town hall, depending on where it's located. They don't have their own individual one. This lunch that she showed for them is pretty much the standard lunch at every single school all throughout Japan.
school lunches looked like, it's no wonder they
Um, I've never seen this at any school I've ever worked at in America, or the last one either. It honestly, it doesn't look this good or on a tray or being like wide open.
mistook it for prison food. And America's yellow school buses blew their mind. Because a lot of students in Japan just bike to school, so they thought the big yellow bus was only a thing in the movie.
I've never met a Japanese student who thought yellow buses were just from the movie. Any kid I've ever talked to in Japan knows that America has yellow school buses. I've never heard anyone be like, "What? They actually have yellow school buses there?" I mean, she, I think, did work in the countryside, so maybe this was like a countryside thing where they just didn't know quite as much as the outer world. But kids in Osaka, kids in Tokyo, they know Americans use yellow school buses.
And same thing with lockers. I mean, don't.
No, schools don't have lockers anymore. At least, I don't know about other states. I can at least speak for Florida. We don't have lockers. This is a safety thing. Kids would be able to hide stuff in the lockers. Most schools have had lockers taken out. This might not be true for private schools, though, and possibly charter schools as well. But for the most part, public schools, as far as K through 8 goes, lockers have been taken out due to safety reasons. You can guess why. I'm not going to get into it here because then I have to deal with YouTube's banning certain parts of my channel.
Don't get me wrong, they had shoe cubbies, but a locker big enough to shove someone in? They'll
Lockers have never been big enough to shove somebody in.
never know my trauma. But don't get me started about wearing pajamas to school. My students had a strict dress code. I'm talking no piercings, no makeup, shirts buttoned to the tippy top. So knowing that across the world somebody shows up to school looking like this.
You see this right here? Guess what? You can't do this. Um, she's, again, this is showing her inexperience in life in general. You can't bring in drinks that are not water to school. You can't be walking around with snacks at school. This is because having open snacks while walking through school can affect other children with allergies. You can't have your hood up when you're in a school. This is because you can't be seen on the school cameras then, and it stops from having a stranger enter the premises. You can't wear pajama bottoms unless it's a special type of dress down day. Crocs and slides are also banned. This is a safety hazard at schools. You also can't wear military pants, camouflage pants, or ripped jeans. And this is public school, guys. All right. I know there's not a dress code. They don't have a strict uniform like you see at the schools she's talking about, but she's wrong. There are dress codes at public schools. On top of it, charter schools, which are kind of in between private and public, they're free. They actually have their own dress codes. For example, my own school, you have a dress code. There's certain things you have to wear. You have to wear a shirt affiliated with our school unless it's a dress down day. So again, her inexperience with her own country really shows through as well. She has no idea what she's talking about here. Oh boy, here we go. Japan's nightmare jobs. Again, she doesn't list any of the places that she's talking about here, and I highly doubt she worked anywhere like this, but let's let her tell her story.
Never work here in Japan. I was interviewing at some companies and had to leave as soon as they told me how they treat their employees. Policies like unpaid mandatory overtime, working on weekends and holidays, and not letting people quit. I even had
Yeah, the whole not letting people quit, it's not a thing in Japan. You just quit. You just quit. You quit. Um, Japan will not hold you hostage if you want to try and quit. I don't know where she's worked at or where she thinks these jobs exist. There might be some sort of like illegal immigration thing going on where they're bringing someone in and putting them under the wrong visa and then holding that against them and saying, like, I'll report you to the government if you suddenly try to quit while paying you a bad wage. Maybe that's what she's talking about. But if you're on a proper working visa, humanities, instructor visa, whichever one, and you want to quit, you just fucking quit, man. I don't know what she's talking about.
companies say that employees need to pay them when they miss work, no matter if it's an emergency like a train accident or a health issue. Like, it's already bad enough to not get paid for the day. Imagine having to hand your boss a crisp 1 hundo every time you get a flat tire.
Yeah, never heard of this either. She's saying these are Boraku Company, which is an actual thing. For example, Uniqlo, which you may know, a famous fashion and clothing store in Japan, is known for treating their employees pretty bad. I've never ever heard of them doing something this egregious, though, such as making you pay them for missing a day of work. Now, I understand, PTO, paid time off, might not get paid if you've used all your PTO up. But I've never ever heard of a job saying you need to pay me if you miss a day of work. Now, there might be a specific contract based on commission or based on you showing up for a client that says if you do this to the client, you have to pay something. But I'm not sure what kind of job she's talking about where you would have to pay them for missing a day of work. This is extremely illegal. This would not go through. And if you reported this to the equivalent to the Better Business Bureau in Japan or the Labor Board in Japan, this company would be in big trouble. So I'm not sure what she's talking about at all. Um, the one company I did talk about, Uniqlo, that's listed as a black company, they have done stuff where they've made people work past the time that they were set to work for like part time, maybe 4 hours. They made them work 8 hours, and then four of those were unpaid, which that is crap. They shouldn't be treating their employees like that. But again, those employees can just quit. They can just stop showing up. They're not going to get hunted down or made to pay back the company.
Devious, absolutely devious. People here call these black companies because they're infamous for their shady business practices. They target young workers or foreigners because they don't know better or don't have resources to fight them. And when you try to quit, I've heard of people getting sued by these companies or black.
There are companies I have heard of threatening to sue. Threatening to sue and actually suing are two very different things. To actually sue somebody, it's not free. I always hear companies say like, They might sue you. You got to be careful. They might sue you." Okay, I've hired a lawyer in Japan before, and just the initial fee to get the lawyer started on your case, you're looking at about $600 to $800. The average English teacher in Japan is making somewhere between 1,500 to about $3,000. It would not be worth their time or money to invest in a lawyer to pursue a case for that little bit of money. It's ridiculous. No one's gonna actually sue you.
Blackmailed at their new jobs in retaliation. Is it legal? No. Does it happen? Somehow, yeah. And honestly, some of my jobs in the US were just as bad, but this is what to
I've never had a job in the US do anything like that. If this is illegal in Japan, it's even more illegal in the US. Guys, a lot of you work in America. Have you ever had a company call your future job that you go to and talk trash about you, that can get you, I don't know about your laws in your state, but in Florida, that would get you in a major violation. Like you'd be in massive trouble. The person at the next job could actually easily sue you, and there would be lawyers willing to very quickly take that case. Have you ever had an employer in America make you pay them for missing a day of work? I haven't.
Look out for in Japan.
Well, there you guys have it. A couple of videos just picked out of the random bunch that she has here on these shorts. Again, I'm unsure why the shorts have such egregious lies or just such egregious made up things about Japan. Not really with anything backing them or any kind of source of where or what she's talking about. If these things really have happened to her somewhere, I would love to hear the companies. They do need to be exposed. I think this is something that would be great to do as a YouTuber, especially when you're at 1.79 million subscribers. You're making enough money that YouTube is your job now. You don't need to work for these trash companies. So why not help a couple gaijin out who are coming to the country by exposing black companies like this that treated you like this? I know I would with my channel, and my channel was much smaller. I've called out companies on there before. I've talked about other vloggers who were treated poorly by their company and exposed those so that other people don't have to work for these. Um, you know, I'm not saying it's our responsibility to look out for everyone who ever wants to come to Japan, but I think it would be really good to cite companies that would treat people this poorly just to get the news out there. A lot of the time, something that really gets Japan to change some really negative ways is exposing because they lose face, right? And that's big for Japanese. That's big for Japanese companies. If they lose face online with a almost 2 million subscriber channel, they might be forced to make a change. And I'm not saying just because they're embarrassed by YouTube. I'm saying they're embarrassed by their own country for treating people that way. I will say one other thing I did investigate on this channel that I do want to take her side on. Her experience with the JET program was trash. She seemed to have had one of the worst JET program situations ever. And I do sympathize with her about that. You'll have to watch that. That's a separate video. Maybe I'll do a reaction to that. But man, she got a bad deal with Jet. I've never heard someone get such a bad deal. They put her in a trash apartment. They made her take over for a person who seemed to be some sort of hoarder or like crazy cat lady. So she has had bad experiences in Japan, which I feel like she should focus more on these kind of stories and talking about that rather than making up weird stuff like this in these YouTube shorts. I do understand they're clickbaity. I do understand they get a lot of views. I do understand they bring in a ton of eyes to the channel. And so I get why she does it. But at the same time, you don't need to lie, man. Just tell us about your own personal experiences. Your story about Jet was amazing. That was a really good story. You should do more stuff like that of your own personal experiences rather than making up these weird sort of non-existent black companies you speak of. And if you do speak of these, warn others for the future of coming to Japan. That said, guys, I hope you enjoyed what you saw here today. Again, please react to some of these comments below. Let me know your situation if you've ever dealt with this. Am I totally wrong in my approach to this? Am I wrong about companies not doing this? I've never heard of any of these things happening. You who do live in Japan, have worked in Japan, or been there a long time. I know I've got some 10 plus year people in Japan, veterans of Japan. Let me hear your experiences. After my 15 plus years, I've never experienced anything like this or had a Japanese friend or Gaijin friend experience these. Till next time, I've been Unrested, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.